Galaxy 666 by Pel Toro. Session 5.
Welcome back, everyone, to Galaxy 666. We are still at the earliest stages of our journey. We've only glimpsed one of our main companions briefly and from a distance. Our current friendship with Bion and Milka, I hate to say, is not destined to last. But they serve the literary purpose of giving us background information on where we are and what challenges lay ahead. So how well have they performed this function? We spoke last time about the far distant future that we now inhabit, and how various pronouncements on the part of the characters alerted us to this fact. Here they continue from a much more personal aspect. Bion speaks with awe of the Warp Men, who are reported to be the first pioneers of something, presumably intergalactic space travel. Bion goes on to describe how the old men that he knew when he was a boy were personally acquainted with the Warp Men at a time when those Warp Men were as old as the old men Bion knew, and the old men that Bion knew were as young as Bion's grandson is now, which is the same age he was when he knew the old men who knew the Warp Men when the Warp Men were the same age as he currently is. Or so we're led to believe. Interesting is the fact that Bion and his ilk looked upon the Warp Men as demigods, not gods, which is how the retired space truck drivers were treated, but demigods, and that they were like Trojan heroes, but not like heroes of any other eras, or even from other planets, despite the fact that there is now an empire into which alien races have been amalgamated, apparently by force. We are also starting to get more hints about the strange Galaxy 666. Bion tells us how it can befuddle a ship's instruments, including the VP scanners, which I still believe are simply video cameras or maybe even windows, and causes ships to be sucked into or expelled away from stars with some apparent level of intent and concern for the age of the individuals in question. That is a decent amount of information for the chapter, but actually that is about all he tells us. Granted, it is a short chapter of only a page and a half, which covers probably only about 10 minutes of story time, but within that 10 minutes, Bion and Milka work their way through 2 drinks with a third ordered by the last sentence. Apparently, another result of having been through the warp more times than one can count is the strong need for alco, a much more futuristic-sounding word than alcohol. It certainly doesn't help that future society has chosen to provide special cheap rates on the drinks, given the ship driver's propensity to slam them down. We do have additional areas revealed to us as well. One is the great admiration and respect paid to those who go traveling across the stars hauling stuff. One might think of the same reverence being paid today to the long-haul truckers taking their lettuce heads or reams of toilet paper across the endless freeways of the world. An important role, no doubt, but probably one that doesn't bring such laborers godlike awe from the rest of society. Curiously, humans from Earth seem to be held with some high level of regard. They are aristocratic, especially those who can trace their bloodline back to the Earth. Just a comment at this point to reflect back upon in a later chapter. We hear, too, of the effects of space travel on the body using the virtually unknown planet habitability scale. A reasonably habitable planet has a simple exchange rate of 1 space year to 5 planet years. However, a clearly uninhabitable planet has a ratio of only 1 to 2, with the luxury planet of Douglas Adams' Nagarthian planet builders topping the market of 1 year to 33.72 years. I also have to raise some issue with their spacecraft crew's troubleshooting skills. The last thing a pilot will do if they have one navigation system showing a navigational aid line in one direction, and another navigational system showing the same nav aid lying in another, is to take an average between the two. Either one system is broken, or the other one is, or they both are. Either way, it would be better to go back the way you came than wander aimlessly. And if their navigation systems were so stymied, how do they know they weren't actually in Galaxy 664 in the first place? We have seen in many science fiction drama, Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek being one of the strongest examples, where a hapless crew finds themselves plummeting into the heart of some star or other. First, plummeting seems to imply a rapid transition from heading toward to impacting into. But given the size of the star, we can predict the plummeting would be on the scale of days, weeks, or even months. True, it makes for dull reading, but even watching the sun slowly cover the entire front screen of the Enterprise's bridge when they are just moments away from impact fails to give one an appreciation of just how massive an object a star is. If the star is just filling the Enterprise screen, the Enterprise has a long time to go before it will reach the star. Also, with the intense radiation given off, one ship would certainly disintegrate into vapor long before it reached any kind of plummeting stage. Just as a point of comparison, it takes light about 8 minutes to travel from the Sun to the Earth, or 3 minutes from the Sun to Mercury. So to really have that plummeting feeling, you would need to be up around the speed of light, which is, of course, plenty fast enough to break out of any star's gravitational field. Interesting use of imagery that Pell uses to describe the spaceship and the escape pods falling into the Sun. Perhaps the chicken analogy works, but I'm not sure if there are many instances of swans and cygnets spilling over waterfalls from where Pell is from, but I do find it hard to understand how such a situation might occur, or even why the swan, at least, would choose the path of self-destruction over simply flying away. But on the other hand, may we not also consider ourselves like the swan, choosing not to fly away from the inevitable darkness that awaits us, but instead choosing to go deeper and deeper into
Galaxy 666.
Here ends Session 5.